Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. India Energy Week 2024 kicks off in Goa. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says India to get $67 billion investments over the next 6 years. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken talks Gaza truce and hostage deal with Egypt's president after meeting Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince in Riyadh. And Russia accuses the U.S. of sowing chaos in West Asia, calls the strikes on Syria and Iraq as an attempt to influence the U.S. election. India Energy Week 2024 kicks off in India's southwestern coastal state of Goa on Tuesday. The event focuses on catalyzing India's energy transition goals. DD India's Tapas Bhattacharya reports.
Goa came alive as Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated India Energy Week 2024. Prime Minister Modi welcomed attendees to the second edition of India Energy Week, emphasizing Goa's spirit of hospitality and natural beauty. Noting India's soaring GDP rate surpassing global estimates, he hailed India as the fastest growing economy globally with promising projections for the future.
भारत आज विश्व की सबसे तेज बढ़ती अर्थव्यवस्था है और हाल ही में IMF ने भी ये भविष्यवाणी की है कि हम ऐसे ही तेज गति से आगे बढ़ेंगे। आज पूरी दुनिया के एक्सपर्ट्स ये मान रहे हैं कि भारत जल्द ही विश्व की तीसरी सबसे बड़ी अर्थव्यवस्था बनेगा।
Prime Minister Modi outlined the global support for India's biofuel initiatives, with 22 nations and 12 international organizations joining forces. Anticipating a doubling of energy demand by 2045, Prime Minister unveiled India's comprehensive plan to meet the surge while ensuring affordability and sustainability.
हम प्राइमरी एनर्जी मिक्स में नेचुरल गैस को 6% से बढ़ाकर 15% तक करने के लिए प्रयास कर रहे हैं। इसके लिए अगले 5-6 वर्षों में करीब $67 बिलियन का निवेश होने जा रहा है।
Prime Minister Modi also inaugurated ONGC Sea Survival Centre, which is designed to train 10 to 15,000 individuals annually. The facility utilizes simulated harsh weather conditions to enhance trainees' sea survival skills. Touching upon India's stride in the green hydrogen sector, PM highlighted the National Green Hydrogen Mission, which will pave the way for India to become a centre of hydrogen production and export.
India Energy Week 2024 signifies India's unwavering commitment to drive its energy transition agenda forward. With global collaboration and innovative initiatives, it sets the stage for a sustainable and a prosperous future. With camera person Ajit, this is Tapas Bhattacharya for DD India from Goa.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated and laid the foundation stone of projects worth more than $160 million in Goa. Dedicating the National Institute of Technology Goa campus and National Institute of Water Sports, the Prime Minister said that these projects will boost development in the state. To uplift Goa's tourism industry, the Prime Minister laid the foundation stone for a passenger ropeway. The Prime Minister distributed appointment letters to 1,930 new government recruits across various departments.
गोवा के विकास के लिए 1300 करोड़ रुपए की योजनाओं का लोकार्पण और शिलान्यास हुआ है। शिक्षा, स्वास्थ्य और पर्यटन से जुड़ी ये परियोजनाएं गोवा के विकास को और रफ्तार देगी। आज यहां नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी और नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ वाटर स्पोर्ट्स के कैंपस का उद्घाटन हुआ है। इससे यहां पढ़ने और पढ़ाने वालों की सुविधा और बढ़ेगी।
In the latest on the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict, Israel continues its military operations in Gaza. An IDF fighter jet targeted and eliminated a terrorist involved in the 7th October attacks. IDF troops also discovered multiple weapons, explosive devices and ammunition in Khan Yunis. An enemy spotter who had concealed himself within a compound was also identified and neutralized. Around 80 suspects, including those allegedly connected to the attacks in southern Israel, were also detained. And as the Israel-Hamas conflict continues, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is currently visiting Egypt's capital, Cairo, where he met President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. This is Blinken's 5th trip to the region since the conflict began. The top U.S. diplomat met Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince in Riyadh on Monday and discussed the ongoing conflict in the region. U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said Blinken and the Crown Prince discussed regional coordination to achieve an enduring end to the crisis. The U.S. military struck 2 Houthi drones in Yemen on Monday in a retaliatory move. Taking to its social media account on X, U.S. Central Command said the attack was done in self-defense. The U.S. said that the move comes as the Houthi drones posed an imminent threat to U.S. Navy warships and merchant vessels in the region. These actions will protect freedom of navigation and make international waters safer and more secure for U.S. Navy warships and merchant vessels alike. The Houthis also launched missiles at 2 vessels in the Red Sea, causing slight damage to a cargo ship off the coast of Yemen's Hodeidah. The group's military spokesperson said it fired naval missiles at the Morning Tide and Star Nasia. No injuries were reported.
The naval forces of the Yemeni armed forces, and with the help of God, we have carried out 2 military operations in the Red Sea. The first targeted the American ship Star Nasia, while the other one targeted the British ship Morning Tide. The 2 ships were targeted using suitable naval missiles, and the strikes were direct and accurate.
Amidst allegations that UN agency UNRWA staff was involved in the Hamas attacks in Israel, the United Nations has appointed an independent review group. The group will be led by former French Foreign Minister Catherine Colonna. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said that the group will ensure impartiality and will look into the allegations of breaches. Meanwhile, Israeli intelligence has accused at least 12 UNRWA employees of being involved in the 7th October Hamas attacks in Israel.
The Secretary General, in consultation with Philippe Lazzarini, the UNRWA Commissioner General, this morning appointed an independent review group to assess whether the agency is doing everything within its power to ensure neutrality and to respond to the allegations of serious breaches that have been made. So the review will be led by Catherine Colonna, the former Minister of Foreign Affairs of France, and she will work with 3 research organizations. The review group will begin its work on February 14th and is expected to submit an interim report to the Secretary General by late March, with a final report expected to be completed by late April. The final report will be made public.
Russia has accused U.S. President Joe Biden of carrying out strikes in Iraq and Syria as the presidential election campaign is heating up, and not in retaliation to an attack on U.S. soldiers. At a UN Security Council meeting on the strikes, Russia's ambassador said that there was no justification for the US actions.
Washington continues to sow chaos and destruction in West Asia, the biggest operation of the US in the region since 2003, presented by Joe Biden as an act of retaliation for an attack of the use of an unmanned aerial vehicle of unconfirmed origin on the American base that is illegally in Syria, has no justification. We see in these flex their muscles attempt, first of all, a desire to influence the domestic political landscape in America, a desire to somehow correct the disastrous image of the current American administration on the international arena as the presidential election campaign is heating up.
Deputy U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Robert Wood justified the strikes under Article 51 of the founding UN Charter, which covers the individual or collective right of states to self-defense against armed attack.
Let me be clear. The United States does not desire more conflict in a region when we are actively working to contain and de-escalate the conflict in Gaza. And we are not seeking a direct conflict with Iran. But we will continue to defend our personnel against unacceptable attacks.
The Buckingham Palace announced on Monday that King Charles III is being treated for cancer. It was diagnosed during the King's recent hospital treatment for an enlarged prostate. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said he is in regular contact with the King and that the whole country is hoping for King Charles to make a full recovery. King Charles's younger son, Prince Harry, reached London on Tuesday to check on his ailing father. It sparked hopes among Londoners for a possible reconciliation between the two. Meanwhile, heir to the throne, Prince William is expected to step up to fulfill some of the monarch's duties until the King recovers. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi conveyed his and people of India's wishes for the speedy recovery and good health to King Charles III. In reply to a post by the royal family communicating the news of the King suffering from cancer, the Prime Minister posted on X, and I quote, "I join the people of India in wishing speedy recovery and good health to His Majesty King Charles III," unquote. Visitors and morning commuters outside Buckingham Palace on Tuesday praised Britain's King Charles for sharing his cancer diagnosis publicly and wished him well. The royal standard was flying outside Clarence House, which has been the official residence of Charles before he became the king. Buckingham Palace announced on Monday evening that the king has been diagnosed with a form of cancer. The palace said Charles has begun a series of treatment and he will return to duty as soon as possible. Moving on, 6 people, including 3 police officers, were wounded in an attempted terror attack in front of an Istanbul courthouse in Turkey on Tuesday. The country's Interior Minister Ali Yerlikaya said on social media platform X that the attack left the 2 shooters dead in a gun battle. The assailants were believed to be with the leftist DHKPC militant group. The attack took place on the day when Turkey was commemorating the anniversary of an earthquake in the country's south that killed more than 53,000 people. Still to come on DD India Live. Senegal's parliament votes to delay the country's presidential election to December. And Russia renews call for details of a probe by the West into the 2022 explosions in the undersea Nord Stream gas pipeline.
debate
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. And now to updates on the Ukraine-Russia conflict. Russia's defense ministry claims to have shot down 7 Ukraine-launched drones over the southwestern region of Belgorod after the region's governor said the city of Gubkin was under a drone attack. There were no casualties from the attack on Gubkin, but 4 houses were damaged by the drone debris. India's Petroleum Minister Hardeep Singh Puri is addressing media persons in Goa, where the India Energy Week 2024 has kicked off. Take a listen.
Energy to the venue as well. So I don't want to stand between you and what is to follow in this evening's program, but let me give you an overview of what happened today. And I think if we have a little time and if you have the inclination to ask a few questions, I'd be happy to respond to those. We were very fortunate that the Honorable Prime Minister personally inaugurated the 2nd edition of the India Energy Week. Let me recall for those of you who may be here for the first time that the 1st edition of the India Energy Week was celebrated in Bengaluru last year at around this time. This is the 2nd edition. And in the 1 year since we had the 1st edition, we have clocked some very impressive figures. The number of exhibitors in India Energy Week 24 is 30% higher than those in India Energy Week number 1. And we have, I think, about 900 exhibitors. The increase in exhibition area also has a 25% increase from 18.5 square kilometers last year. This year, from the 15.
After successful registration, students need to log in and complete their profile. Once they have completed their profile, they can search and apply for various schemes.
Last year, this year, from the 18.5 thousand square kilometers last year to 15,000, from 15,000 square kilometers. This is a 46% increase. I'm not going to go into other logistical details. We are going to have 46 technical sessions. Today, as far as I know, last reports coming in, we had 6 sessions. I had the privilege of participating in one of the ministerial meetings along with the Secretary General of OPEC, my ministerial colleagues from Qatar and Guyana, and the session was moderated by the head of Boston Consulting Group's. I also want to say that prior to the inauguration of the event, the Honorable Prime Minister visited a new state-of-the-art facility set up by ONGC to deal with the kind of risks that are central to many offshore facilities. Very often turbulence of weather, the helicopters face challenges, and over the last 20 years, when we analyze the data, I think ONGC has taken a commendable initiative. They've set up a world-class training facility, which has a simulation, if I understand, in real conditions. And the Navy has a similar facility, I think, in Kochi, but I think this is a even more modern state-of-the-art facility, and it is their idea to train a large number of personnel from all concerned agencies. I won't go into the details. एक दिन में कितने लोग जाते हैं ऑफशोर? 10,000 कितने होते हैं every day? That's it. In one day, 10,000 of our professionals are performing duties on offshore installations. So this is a training facility which will, I think, go a long way in boosting confidence, in giving people training on how to cope with, no matter how unlikely those occurrences are, it's good to be trained. There aren't too many of these training facilities in the world. I'm personally familiar with one in the Gulf of Mexico, one also for North America, and maybe I think also off the coast of Sao Paulo in Brazil. But those are, I may not be aware of all the facts.
You're listening to a live press conference being addressed by India's Petroleum Minister Hardeep Singh Puri in Goa on the margins of the India Energy Week 2024. Right, moving on, Russia said on Tuesday that it has repeatedly asked for details of the Western probe into 2022 explosions in the undersea Nord Stream gas pipeline, but nothing has been shared yet. It was commenting on the plans of the prosecutor leading Sweden's probe into the gas pipeline blasts to announce a decision this week on whether to drop the case, press charges, or request that someone is detained. A Kenyan cult leader, Paul Mackenzie, and his 29 associates were charged on Tuesday with the murder of 191 children in a forest. Prosecutors say Mackenzie ordered his followers to starve themselves and their children to death so that they could go to heaven before the world ended. The defendants deny the charges during a court hearing in the coastal town of Malindi. More than 400 bodies were exhumed from the Shakahola forest. Senegal's parliament has voted to delay the country's presidential elections to December. The West African nation was initially expected to go to polls on 25th February, but President Macky Sall announced a delay this weekend. Experts say this will put Senegal's democratic credentials to test. DD India's Nabil Ahmed Rufai reports from Accra in Ghana.
Senegal's lawmakers met in parliament on Monday to debate the bill proposed by President Macky Sall. The proposal was to postpone the country's elections slated to be held in just about 3 weeks. It was a chaotic debate which led to opposition lawmakers being forcefully removed from the chambers when they tried to block the voting process. The debate concluded with the lawmakers agreeing to push the elections to December 15. President Macky Sall's tenure, which is to end in April, has also been extended until that election is held. While lawmakers debated the bill, opposition supporters gathered outside Parliament to protest. Security forces were seen using tear gas to disperse the crowds. Many protesters who took to the streets of the capital, Dakar, to burn tires to protest against the government's decision were arrested. The government also shut down mobile internet access during the demonstrations. 2 opposition candidates have now petitioned a local court challenging the election delay. Electoral tensions in Senegal have raised concerns about stability in West Africa. There's been at least 6 coups in the region within the last 3 years. But Senegal has long been considered one of the most stable democracies in that region. The West African Regional Bloc, ECOWAS, has appealed for calm and dialogue, even as the US and other Western nations have called for elections to be held as soon as possible. Nabil Ahmed Rufai in Accra, Ghana, reporting for DD India.
Thailand's Attorney General is considering prosecuting the country's convicted former Premier Thaksin Shinawatra over an alleged insult of the monarchy. This development could extend Thaksin's 1-year conviction, but it comes just weeks ahead of his possible release on parole. The case was initiated by the military government of Prayuth Chan-o-cha, citing an interview Thaksin gave to foreign media in the year 2015. Thaksin refuted the charges and appealed for justice last year. A parliamentary delegation from Nepal's visit to India concluded on Tuesday. The 8-member delegation was led by lawmaker Raj Kishore Yadav. The delegation met Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla and Minister of External Affairs Subramaniam Jaishankar. The discussions covered a wide range of topics aimed at fostering closer ties between the two countries. The delegation also met Minister of State for Tourism Shripad Nayak and discussed issues related to tourism cooperation between the two countries. The delegation visited Goa's iconic Aguada Fort and witnessed the digitization of Goa's heritage at the fort complex. And now take a look at some other stories making news in India. 9 people were killed and at least 80 injured in a massive explosion that took place at a firecracker factory in central India's Madhya Pradesh on Tuesday. Firefighting operations are underway at the firecracker factory located in Harda. India's Prime Minister has announced an ex gratia of rupees 2 lakh from the PM's National Relief Fund to the next of kin of each of the deceased. The Indian Army unveiled 6 electric buses for troop movement within the National Capital Region at Manekshaw Centre in New Delhi on Tuesday. The initiative is a continuation of the Indian Army's dedicated efforts to support the country's green initiatives and reduce its carbon footprint. India's National Investigation Agency has charge-sheeted 24 operatives of international human trafficking syndicates involved in the trafficking of Bangladeshis and Rohingyas of Myanmar origin into the country with forged Indian identity documents for carrying out anti-national activities. The accused include 4 Bangladeshis and 1 Rohingya of Myanmar origin. A fresh spell of snowfall transformed northern India's Jammu and Kashmir into a winter wonderland. But several districts of the region were blanketed with thick snow affecting flights as well as traffic on the Jammu-Srinagar National Highway. In sports news, India's fast bowler Jasprit Bumrah is likely to be rested for the cricket test match at Rajkot, considering the workload he will have during IPL 2024 and then gear up for the highly anticipated T20 World Cup 2024 later this year. The selectors and team management are considering to rest the star bowler for the 3rd test and have him back for the final 2 tests. Mohammad Siraj, who was rested for the 2nd test, is likely to rejoin the squad. Uncertainty over Ravindra Jadeja's availability continues after he suffered a hamstring injury in the 1st test. KL Rahul and Jadeja, who were ruled out from the Vizag test, remain doubtful for the 3rd and 4th tests as well. Fast bowler Xavier Bartlett ran through the West Indies lineup with another impressive total of 4 for 21 as Australia swept the one-day international series with another resounding 8-wicket win on Tuesday. Australia won the first match by 8 wickets in Melbourne and the second by 83 runs in Sydney. Bartlett, who grabbed 4 wickets in his debut ODI at MCG in the series opener before the pace bowler was rested at Sydney, ripped through West Indies batting as the visitors were bowled out for 86, its 5th lowest total in ODIs. Jake Fraser-McGurk made a rapid 41 off 18 balls as Australia sped to 87 for 2 in just 6.5 overs, with the opening batter smacking 3 sixes and 5 fours. Australia's 12th successive win came in its landmark 1,000th ODI as it became only the 2nd country after India to play so many ODIs. And with it, it's a wrap on this edition of DD India Live. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also check out our website ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. From all of us here in New Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.
In a world that never